Hey guys, Larry the tractor guy here. Hey man, check this out. We're out here looking at a 4830 sprayer this morning and looking at the temperature on the truck here, and it's like 84 degrees this morning, so we're really gonna enjoy that weather this morning. It might get a little humid. We did get a little bit of rain last night here in southwest Oklahoma, so we're sure thankful of that. So we got a 4830 sprayer here that a customer pulled up here on his farm here to wash the boom off. He was just going to unfold it and wash chemical and that kind of thing off of his boom. And after he unfolded the boom and washed the sprayer off, then the sprayer will not start. So it will not start, and so we're gonna dig into this a little bit and see why this sprayer won't start for him after he washed everything off, and we'll show you what we find out here in a minute. We're gonna give it a shot here real quick and see what happens. Go ahead. Okay, well, it looks like engine cranks but will not start. Okay, so we're gonna get Service Advisor going here and get a live connection going to see if we have any fault codes real quick. We've got a live connection here using Service Advisor on this 4830 sprayer, and we're looking at fault codes here, and I don't know if you can see it real good with the camera, but we've got a lot of codes generated here. We've got a couple of active codes that kind of I don't know, kind of sends up a little bit of a red flag. But one thing that sends up a red flag pretty quick is we've got a bunch of 09 codes ending in 09, which tells me real quick that we've got a CAN bus problem for sure, to deal with some controllers on. And man, it looks like to me we're gonna have to go ahead and clear all of these codes and start to crank the engine over again and see what comes back. That's usually what I try to do first thing when I first hook up, because there's so many codes to look at. I don't want to be chasing the wrong thing or going the wrong direction. Okay, so we crank the engine over again. Gonna refresh codes here real quick. Key on. It's on. So we still got our live connection up here. We went ahead and cranked this sprayer over, and it generated a whole bunch of ending in 09 codes, and that's telling me that we've got ECU message missing, we've got ECU message missing, we've got about 4 of those that say ECU, which is engine controller, engine control unit missing. And what I mean by missing is that controller is not showing up on the CAN bus and communicating with other controllers on the sprayer, and so it's basically not going to let this sprayer start. We figured out real quick during cranking that after it doesn't start and we just go back to ignition on mode, that we have a boom hydraulic controller, the BHC controller, that has low switched voltage and unswitched voltage. And then also we were getting a 158.01 code for the CCU, the chassis controller, showing to have low voltage. So this is a pretty neat little trick in Service Advisor here. So I pulled up those 2 controllers, and you can actually go in there and look at that voltage going to that controller using Service Advisor. Okay, and so when we pull those up, we're looking at those, and on the BHC switched voltage, it's showing 11 volts. The BHC unswitched battery voltage is showing 0.15, which is really super low, actually no voltage at all. And then the CCU is showing 11 volts on the switched and the unswitched. So we're gonna check the batteries real quick on the sprayer. It does turn over, so I suspect that we do have a good 12 volt power supply, but we're gonna look into that real quick and see what we come up with. So the longer that we have the key on and the longer that we look at it with this live connection using Service Advisor, then we start losing controllers off of the CAN. And so basically we've lost our chassis controller off of the CAN bus, and so we can't seem to get it back. And so we've got a test controller that we carry on the service truck with us. So we're going to go ahead and install this test controller, this CCU here, and put some software on it and see if we can't get this thing to recognize all the other controllers on the CAN bus and see if we can eliminate his problem real quick. So we're still out here battling this problem with this 4830 sprayer that the engine cranks but will not start. And seems like the longer that we've been connected to it with Service Advisor and chasing down maybe a potential CAN bus problem, because we had a lot of controller codes ending in 09, which is usually, you know, communication or message missing from controllers. And so we unplugged several controllers. We unplugged the boom hydraulic controller and finally just got down to just a dead-end road and really not able to figure out what we had going on here. And so we did finally discover that when we unplug the ECU, the engine control unit, from the chassis harness, that all the other controllers, the CCU, the automatic temperature controller, the boom hydraulic controller, all of the other controllers would come back online and communicate. And so we went ahead and plugged the ECU back in, and then we lost all of our controllers again, looking at controllers through Service Advisor. So up here on this controllers tab in Service Advisor, if we click on that, it brings up a list of controllers that we should see communicating on the CAN bus of this sprayer. Okay, and so we didn't see anything out of the ordinary. We looked at some power and grounds and didn't see any voltages missing, and honestly we really didn't even see a CAN bus problem as far as CAN high and CAN low. So what we finally discovered is that when we unplug the engine harness from the ECU and leave the ECU plugged into the chassis harness, that the ECU was online and everything was fine, and then all the other controllers were communicating again. So the only thing that I could think of on the engine that also runs on the communication link of this sprayer would be the VGT turbo actuator. And so it looked like it was a fairly new actuator, probably been replaced at some point. And so we went ahead and unplugged the turbo actuator, and then when we unplugged the turbo actuator and turned the key on with the engine harness plugged back into the ECU, everything came back online and worked like it was supposed to, and the sprayer would start. Other than we're getting a turbo actuator code, obviously, because we have the turbo actuator unplugged. Okay, so go ahead and start the sprayer here and we'll show you real quick. We're going to go ahead and start this thing up without the turbo actuator plugged in. Okay, so the sprayer starts and runs, but what's happening now is we're going to continue to generate this 641.12 code saying that we have a communication error with the turbo actuator. Okay, so what I believe the failure is here today is that we have a failed turbo actuator, but that was not where we were being led through diagnosis, because it basically was knocking controllers off of line and not causing controllers not to communicate with one another. And so we're going to go ahead and get a new turbo actuator installed on this sprayer. Here is the old turbo actuator. Looks like it's been replaced before. I don't really see anything wrong with the actuator, but for some reason the electronic portion of this actuator is kicking our ECU offline, and then also causing other controllers to fail to communicate with each other. And so we're installing the new turbo actuator now, and about got that installed, getting that hooked up now. And then we're going to run this sprayer and make sure that that corrects our problem with this communication issue between control units on the sprayer. And man, it's clouding up out here. Looks like we got a pretty good little chance of a rainstorm moving through, so we're kind of looking forward to that. I guess if it gets too bad, we'll just have to set the pickup for a little bit and wait. We installed the new VGT turbo actuator on this 4830 sprayer, and sprayer started up. We ran it up and down the road a few times, and everything seems to be back to normal. We don't have any more communication errors between controllers. We cleared all the codes in the display. Everything comes back up on the display just like it's supposed to. Everything seems to be back to normal. So quick recap on this 4830. We came out and took a look at it because the customer's original complaint was the engine would crank but would not start. And sure enough, we got here, engine cranks, would not start. We connected Service Advisor, found that we had multiple controllers that were not online any longer and not communicating with one another. And we had a lot of 09 codes, which is communication codes. And so we chased that for a little while and kind of went down a dead-end road in diagnostics with that and started thinking outside the box a little bit. So we started unplugging controllers and getting the controllers off of the communication link. And basically when we came down to the engine controller, we noticed when we unplugged the engine controller that all of our other controllers that were previously offline returned back online. And we're looking at that through Service Advisor, as I explained earlier. And so we also found out that if we plug the engine controller back into the chassis harness and then unplug the engine harness from the ECU engine controller, that everything was normal. And so the only thing that I could think of that would communicate on the CAN bus or on the communication of the sprayer would be the VGT turbo actuator. So when we unplugged the VGT turbo actuator, then everything came online, everything was normal. We started the sprayer, it started up and ran, and so we went ahead and replaced that VGT turbo actuator. And so we're going to return this thing back to the field and see how it runs. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Larry the Tractor Guy signing out. Hey guys, check out Larry the Tractor Guy videos here, other videos here, subscribe here, and buy all your John Deere parts here.
We'll make it work. I think
we're gonna have to make it.
We'll make it work. Come on, let's go.
We need to make
you need some food.
Y'all already burned me out. He's sitting in the sun over here, man.